Hello everyone, this is Professor Reha, Chief Information Officer of Clan Indigo Oni, here with a more focused version of gaming news. Now first off, I want to address the mild slimming of my content on my channel. If you've been a regular subscriber, which is unlikely considering I don't have many of you at this point, then you'll notice that a small amount of content has disappeared. This is because I want to focus my channel a little bit more. I need to really focus in and excel in some category at the very least. I'm going to go with horror, shooters, action-type games in my single-player games, and release occasional videos every Saturday like this one that isn't a single-player game. It's either me discussing something or doing something else, or maybe even playing a game that isn't necessarily single-player. Something along those lines. Anyways, around to the point, I am still going to be finishing Nier Automata. It is technically horror light. It is post-apocalyptic, since humanity is mostly gone. And also it has a large amount of discussion on death and identity, which are typically relegated to the horror realm, usually. So I will be finishing that under the justification that it is light horror. But that aside, today I want to talk about the somewhat hot take that hardcore Minecraft is one of the best horror experiences you can have. Now, there have been articles, even from up to 9 years ago, that have already discussed the idea that Minecraft has horror elements, but nobody's actually sat down and said flat out right, hey, Minecraft is a pure horror game. And if somebody has said this, I apologize, I don't know about it. From my preliminary research on this particular subject, just to see what people's opinions is on this particular subject, people have merely been pointing out some aspects of horror that Minecraft has, when hardcore Minecraft is an actual pure horror experience. Now, before we can get into why hardcore Minecraft is an actual horror experience when regular Minecraft might not be, we have to at least identify the already pre-established horror elements present in Minecraft. First off, the enemies are undead typically. A lot of the enemies you see are undead. You have the skeletons, you have the zombies, the phantoms technically are. It's a good time, and people generally have at least a mild fear of these kinds of creatures because it does very immediately remind us of our own mortality, and that's not something that a lot of people like to think about. This is why people generally find zombies horrific. This is why skeletons are frequently present in horror or for moments of horror and suspense in otherwise non-horror movies. This is why. It reminds us of death, and that's pretty horrific, theoretically speaking. Unless you're really comfortable with the idea of death, which that depends on your own viewpoint. But for the most part, most people don't like it. So that's one thing right off the top that's immediately obvious. The second thing that a lot of people associate with horror is jump scares, and Minecraft has plenty of these. Obviously creepers, of course, goes without saying that they can creep up behind you, yes, that was a pun, and explode behind you, and you'd have no idea because you can't really hear creepers moving. Every once in a blue moon you can, but they're very difficult to hear. And then suddenly, boom, oh, you're dead now. Or nearly so, to the point where any other enemies around could easily finish you off, under most difficulties. Let alone hardcore. Another one is skeletons. You're walking through what you believe is a perfectly safe, ordinary day, and from underneath a tree, a skeleton shoots you out of absolutely nowhere. Jump scare, hard attack. Suddenly, it's not so safe, and you're being bombarded with arrows. Not a good time. This, of course, doesn't even include the potential of a skeleton to shoot you out of the dark of a cave if you don't happen to hear them, if they happen to be far enough away where you don't hear their bony little footsteps going towards you. So you have those at minimum for jump scares. This doesn't even include ghasts in the nether or blazes shooting at you in the nether, or the extremely difficult to see sometimes nether skeletons coming out of absolutely nowhere or turning a corner and punching you in the face. There are ample jump scare opportunities within Minecraft, hardcore or not. Obviously, except for creative, of course. This whole discussion excludes creative. That should go without saying, and peaceful, of course, as well. So you have those as jump scares. What about suspense? What about dread? Well, both of these are provided, at least to some extent, by the knowledge that you're never truly going to be safe except in the home you build, wherever you happen to build that in Minecraft. As stated earlier, creepers are notoriously difficult to hear, to anticipate, and can happen at any time and don't burn in the sunlight. So even going through that perfectly safe daylight plains, a creeper could still be behind that hill over there, for instance. So there's always that mild level of tension that a creeper could be hiding somewhere ready to explode in your face, or behind you. Besides the fact, you've got the primal fear of darkness combined with the suspense. Now, obviously you can light up the darkness in Minecraft, sure, but you have to venture into the darkness in order to put that torch down to light up the area first, and you still don't necessarily know if there's anything in there before you put down the torch, unless you're fortunate enough to hear it first. So there's always going to be that little nagging doubt that, hey, maybe there's something in that darkness, maybe I shouldn't go in there. And anytime you go into a cave, there's going to be that sense of suspense and dread. What's down here? How bad is it going to be? Am I about to accidentally walk off a cliff in the total darkness? Did I run out of torches and I don't have any coal or wood with me? Am I going to have to navigate my way back up without any additional light, only using the light that I've put down, which may not be enough? All kinds of suspenseful, dread-increasing scenarios can happen underground or above ground. So you've got all of that fantastic build-up, you have all of this present. And this is all well documented enough. People are very vividly aware of this. Anybody who's watched Minecraft for even just half an hour is going to be aware of a lot of these in the first place. But what else is there? Well, there's the sense of the unknown. See, when anybody played Minecraft for the first time, we were just dropped into this empty world. We were the only ones apparently sane in it, and we were all alone. There was nobody else around. No allies, nobody else even looks like us. The zombies look like Steve, and there's nobody that looks like Steve or Alex. No one. You're all alone, and there is a sort of subtle implication that something happened, but you don't know what, and your only objective is to survive, for a reason you're never given. You kill the Ender Dragon and the credits roll, but why? Why does killing the Ender Dragon cause the credits to roll? What did you just accomplish that required a credit roll? There's all kinds of theories on this, but at the end of the day, they're all just theories. Nobody really truly knows what's going on in Minecraft. Even if you encounter a village, if you're fortunate enough to do so, pretending that they're rare, you realize instantly that these people with the large noses and sewn together arms aren't like you at all. They're completely different. They're an entirely different species, and then suddenly your solitude in the world of Minecraft increases, because now there is zero hope that you're going to find anyone like you. This is obviously removed on a Minecraft server, but this is assuming the single-player experience. So there is that sense of solitude, that question of what happened here, and never having an answer, that is present in Minecraft. Now, these are things that have been well established in horror, and horror uses them relatively effectively, but what separates Minecraft from any other single-player horror, for instance? Let's target single-player horror specifically. It's a favorite subject of mine. The problem with a lot of horror, be it a movie, a book, or a single-player horror game, is that they pull their punches, to at least some extent. Now, you might be mildly outraged at this if you're a huge horror fan. I'm a huge horror fan. But at some point, the awareness of the fact that somebody took the time to write a story, and a group of people decided to make whatever it is, be it a book, movie, or game, just scary enough that you get scared, but not so scary that you walk away from the story. They want you to finish it. They want you to finish the movie, they want you to finish the book, they want you to finish the game. So in order for that to happen, you have to be at just the right amount of scared, where you're as scared as you can be without walking away from the story that the horror focuses around. But Minecraft doesn't have a story it's trying to tell you. It doesn't care if you walk away, because it knows, first off, that there are a couple of other ways to play Minecraft. It doesn't have to be hardcore, and it doesn't have to be horrific. So it doesn't care. It doesn't have any story. It doesn't care. At the end of the day, additionally, it knows that you can try again in a new world. It doesn't care. It can throw whatever it wants at you, completely randomly, by the way, which increases the suspension and dread, because you never know when something bad is going to happen, only that at some point it eventually will. And Minecraft can go all out on you in ways that Any horror game with a plot, with a storyline, cannot, because they have to inherently hold themselves back at least a little bit to get you through that experience. Hardcore Minecraft makes this much greater. Why? Very simple. A very real sense of loss. You die in Hardcore Minecraft, you have to completely restart. Everything you've built up in that world, completely gone. Even if you started a new world using the same Minecraft seed, you're not going to have all of the stuff that you had. You're just going to know where to get all the stuff already. And depending on how many hours you already put into the hardcore world, that's not necessarily going to work either. So, ultimately, at the end of the day, everything feels a lot more dangerous because there is that potential huge sense of loss. And unlike most other horror, which desensitizes you as you go through it, Minecraft does the reverse. As you invest time into a hardcore world, there's more to lose, and the sense of fear of loss of those resources that you've spent all that time gathering increases as time goes on rather than diminishing. So as you play a hardcore world, the suspense, the fear, the dread of dying to a creeper, a random skeleton falling off a cliff, it increases slowly as you gather more resources. Now, there's one other factor that does increase Minecraft's horror, and I'm going to reference another favorite subject of mine, Amnesia: The Dark Descent, for this. Amnesia: The Dark Descent worked at the time it was released for two primary reasons. One, there was no real other survival horror competition at the time. There wasn't anything else like it being released at that time. Everything else that was like it was released at least a year, possibly more ago. So, for the time it was released, there was no competition. Second, even though you had a character with a backstory and a name, Daniel, he utters like 2 sentences throughout the entirety of Amnesia: The Dark Descent. Which means, because it was a first-person horror game, you were completely free to completely immerse as you wanted to, regardless of who you were. It was your journey. It wasn't you controlling Daniel, which is the case of a lot of horror games, especially third-person ones. Resident Evil is fairly famous for this. You're controlling a named character with their own thoughts, ideas, backstories, etc. Even if those backstories can sometimes get horrifically messy. It's still not you. It's not first person. You're not the one in control directly. You're simply guiding somebody else, basically. But because of Daniel's near total silence throughout Amnesia: The Dark Descent, and the complete lack of indication of Daniel as an individual, you'll only have a couple of hands, a pair of hands, in the game that you really visually see regularly. People were very easily able to fully immerse, and that couldn't really happen in Amnesia Rebirth because the character had a much more defined backstory. She talked more often, which was her voice and not yours. She talked actually almost incessantly, honestly. She had the whole pregnancy thing going on. There was a whole mechanic where you looked down at that, and unless you happened to be a pregnant woman at the time of playing Amnesia Rebirth, and I don't think a lot of pregnant women were playing Amnesia Rebirth, you're not going to be able to immerse yourself as fully into that character, into that world, because even though it is first person, there was so much going on with the character herself that immersion was much more difficult. Total immersion was much more difficult. And then you look at Minecraft. The player character, whoever you happen to choose, be it Steve, Alex, or some skin based off of one of the skeletons of one of those two, they utter pain vocalizations like Daniel does in Amnesia: The Dark Descent, and that's it. They don't speak any words, none at all. You are free to fully immerse yourself in this first-person character that can look however you want them to look, using third-party skins, and have your very own personal journey through Minecraft. And as such, because it's your journey, your voice, your thoughts, all your decisions, Minecraft is famously a sandbox. It is one of the most famous sandbox games where you have zero limits on what you can do. The only limits are the laws of the game world. These blocks work this way, etc. But in terms of direction, in terms of where you want to go and what you want to do, there is zero limits. It is 100% you. all your decisions, all your vision, all your thoughts, all your words. It is 100% you. And this makes the danger in Minecraft feel a lot more real than it normally would. More than it does for books and movies that typically have you spectating as an outsider. More than third-person horror games, where again, you're controlling a third party. You're not in control. And, of course, just obviously, since you can only die once in a hardcore world, all of these fears are increased even more because, again, the sense of loss. So for these particular reasons, hardcore Minecraft is in fact one of the best horror experiences you can find in gaming today. Thank you all very much for listening and or watching, and I hope you have a great 24 hours. If you liked this, please like and subscribe. I don't censor myself on here that much, so YouTube doesn't like that, and so if you want to support my kind of blatantly blunt content, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, ignore me and I will fade into obscurity. Eventually, probably. But until then, here I am. Thank you all very much.